Alright, for this video, we're going to talk about how to look at some reported speech, which was also part of analyzing your survey results. So, you've looked at your survey results, you've spent some time thinking about them. You said, I think I've got some ideas. Now I need to start working on writing my report and getting ready for how to tell people what I learned. So, when we report survey data, it's very important to read your results carefully. Make sure you understand what they say. You have to present your survey questions as well as the findings, the data, accurately and clearly. To explain what the respondents or responses say, these are some common phrases you should be using. Remember, respondents are the people who answered your survey. That's the word respondents. Responses are the actual survey questions or the actual survey answers to the survey questions. So, part A, we use these common phrases to introduce your data, or objectively, clearly state facts. What did you actually say or do? So, question 4 on my survey states, this is the question. So let's have a look at an example survey. What does question 4 in this example survey state? Where do you study? So we could say question 4 on my survey states, where do you study? Question number, let's change this to 7 on my survey is, how often do you read for educational purposes per week? Question number 8 on my survey was about. Let's have a look. We're trying to summarize our idea. Question number 8 on my survey was, what average score do you think you deserve for your school work? Well, what was that about? Question 8 on my survey was about the average score students believe they deserve. It asked respondents to tell me what grade they think they deserve for their work. Part B. These are some common phrases to report data. Objectively report facts. This is not including your opinions. Do not include your opinions with this. This is where you tell me what respondents answered. 21 out of 27 respondents reported that. Please notice here that when I have 21 out of 27 respondents, next I have a blank, I have a space, and I put the percentage in parentheses here. When I tell you the exact number of people, right here, 27 out of 27 respondents reported that, what? That I do not, when I tell you the percentage, I put the percentage in parentheses. These things right here. Underline those. That weird half circle thing. Okay? So, let's say over here, 16 out of, how many respondents is that? 16, 21, 22? 26 respondents. Interesting. 16 out of 26 respondents said they think they deserve A+ to B scores for their work. Or reported that. 18 out of 27 respondents said that. 25 out of 27 respondents stated that. Now, if you want, we can say percentages for these things. I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to strike this out so that you know it's a little different. Strikeout. Now, if I just want to tell you the percentage and make a sentence with only the percentage, I say, without parentheses, 92% of the respondents stated. 92% of the respondents stated that. When you give me a percentage only, you still need to use a phrase of the respondents or of the people surveyed, but you do not put the percentage in parentheses. The parentheses just gives a little more information about the noun phrase that comes before it. So, We have some other verbs that you can use. Remarked that, commented that, contend that. These are different phrases to report facts, not your opinions. Next, remember, use adverbs of quantity to describe the number of respondents. This is another way to tell me different things. You can also include percentages in this. All the respondents said. Almost all the respondents. 3/4 of the respondents, we could say 74% of the respondents said. If you want to give me a little more specific, you can. About half, 58% of the respondents said. Half of the respondents, a quarter, some, 18% of the respondents said. A few of the respondents said, almost none, 2%, 5%. None of the respondents said. Remember as well, you should not only use said to report data. Use the other reporting verbs to explain data. For example, hardly any of the respondents remarked that. About half of the respondents thought that. Most of the respondents stated that. Quite a few people reported that. I recommend that you try to use each time you use one of these words, use the next one in the list until you get all the way through. Then go back and start over again. So that way it's more interesting to read. If you just keep saying remarked that, stated, remarked that, it gets a little boring. Part D. These common phrases are used to analyze and interpret your data. This means this is where you make conclusions. It's what you think the data means. It's your interpretation of it. So, responses to question 5 show that, or responses to question 5 demonstrate that. From the responses to question 5, it can be argued that. Responses to question 5 illustrate that. Responses to question 5 suggest that. Let's look at an example of what I mean, the rest of the sentence. So, responses to which question? I like this one here. What average score do you think you deserve for your school work? Responses to question 8 show that most students, 70% of the students, believe they are really good at school and that they think they deserve high grades for all of the work they do. Let's look at another one. Responses to question 12 show that most students actually started reading because they enjoy reading, which is a little surprising because I did not think many students enjoyed reading. Part E. To write a 200-word description of the survey data, you need to combine sentences from all of the phrases above and using adverbs of quantity and put it all together. So, for example, question 9 on my survey states, point, 22 out of 29 respondents, 70% said blank. In other words, 3/4 of the respondents thought that what? I'm analyzing that information. Thus, responses to number 9 suggest. Let's have a look at one of these questions and go through it. Okay. So, question number 17 on my survey was a Likert scale question. One of the questions, it asked students to disagree or agree, or to rate how much they agree with different opinions. One of the opinions was students should read more. So, 54%. 54.5% of the respondents said that they strongly agree that students should read more. In other words, about 3/4 of the respondents believe that reading is very important for students. Thus, responses to question number 17 suggest that students recognize how important reading is for their grades, and it is something that they should do more. Let's have a look at another example. Question 7 was blank. 51% of the respondents stated that. This means or shows that more than half of the respondents, therefore nearly half of the respondents, do not think or feel or believe. And this indicates what? So let's have a look at a different question. Okay? Alright, let's look at number 14. Question number 14 was a ranking question in which asked students to say whether they agree or disagree with the statement, reading affects students' grades. The average response of this, out of 22 responses, let's look at some more details. With 1 being agree and 3 disagree. The average response to this was that it was the number of 1.45 out of 3, which is a bit surprising. This means that most of the respondents, there are a number of respondents who don't believe that reading affects students' grades. So, therefore, this indicates that the decision on that many students do not know totally whether reading affects their grades, which I disagree with, but they believe that reading does not have, that people are not certain whether reading affects their grades. It takes time. You have to sit and you have to think. These kinds of things right here are what we're looking for to help you write your whole response to everything. So, next, what you need to do is use some of these example structures above. Describe data from one of your survey questions. Do this for at least 5 of your survey questions. Look specifically at the survey questions that you think answer your research question. What were you really trying to learn? This student, this is sample 1, was how does reading affect students' grade in Qatar during their educational life? So she needed to go through and look and say, well, what grades did people get? How much reading do they do for fun? How does this affect their grades, actually? So, this is part of the whole survey. The next video, I believe, will be about how to actually put all this information together and write a sample survey draft. Good luck!